review for Blue Steel, directed by Catherine Bigelow. This came out in 1990. It stars Jamie Lee Curtis. So basically, she is a rookie cop that just joined the police force, and it's like one of her first nights out, and what's the actor's name? Yeah, Tom Sizemore. It robs this store, like a grocery store that's across the street from her and her partner. They're like getting a coffee or something. He's going to the bathroom, so she's by herself. He's been there for a while. She's totally a rookie, and she sees the Tom Sizemore robbing the place. The early Tom Sizemore role. Big fan of Tom Sizemore. R.I.P. But yeah, and then she, does what a cop does, and she goes over there. She kind of sneaks up on him. She says, "Drop the gun." He doesn't drop it. He puts it up, and she blows him away. And she unloads the whole clip into him, which her boss is kind of angry about later. And this leads to the rest of the movie because Ron Silver, who's in Time Cop, kind of the villain in Time Cop. He plays a villain in this too. He's decent as a villain. He's in there too. He witnesses the whole thing, and the gun drops right in front of him, and then he's able to grab the gun and sneak off with it. And I guess they don't take his statement. He flees the scene. She doesn't notice him, and this leads to basically him going insane and then becoming a serial killer and becoming obsessed with Jamie Lee Curtis and stalking her. So that's basically the setup for the movie. So it's an interesting movie. It's got a great cast. I mean, you got Jamie Lee Curtis, Ron Silver. I think he's pretty good. I'm not quite sure how I feel about his performance. I don't hate it, but Clancy Brown is a detective. He's kind of her boss too. Later on, and this is spoilers. The movie came out, 1990. They kind of have a romance together, her and Clancy Brown. It's a nice performance from him. He's not playing a villain. He's playing a good guy. Like, he's a good detective. He's good at his job. Mike Starr's in it. Tom Sizemore, like I said, but he's only in it for like a few minutes. Richard Jenkins plays Ron Silver's attorney. He's very good. Always nice to see Richard Jenkins. So it's an interesting film because, and this is not to take anything away from Catherine Bigelow. I think she's a really good director. But man, does this movie feel like kind of like an unofficial Cameron movie. Like it just does. Like the editing, the look. The music's done by Brad Fidel, however you pronounce it, who did the music for Terminator 1 and 2. And the whole movie, I was just like thinking, man, this feels so James Cameron. And I'd say more so than even Point Break. And I think he's a producer on Point Break. He actually gets a special thanks to him and on the IMDb. Because like halfway through the movie, I started looking through the IMDb, and I was just like, man, this feels so James Cameron. So I don't know the whole backstory. I think he was on set maybe. I don't know if him and Bigelow, because I know they had a romance. Did they marry? I think. I don't know if he was maybe in the editing room with her, maybe editing it a little bit. And it's not to take anything away from her, but she's almost like a female James Cameron during this time period. This and Point Break and Near Dark too, which I like that movie a lot. And that has, on the trivia for that, I read that that movie she took a lot of the cast from Aliens and just put them in that movie. So, but yeah, the look, it's got this, like, it's called Blue Steel. It's definitely got this cold blue feel to the movie, to the cinematography. It's got that James Cameron kind of, how would you put it? It's like cool, calculated, and collected. Like very on point, very controlled. Like, I think that's how I would probably put it. So I just, the whole movie, I was just thinking like female James Cameron. But it does have its problems, I would say. There's a side story about Jamie Lee Curtis and her mom and her dad, and her dad's kind of not a good guy. He's kind of a douchebag. You know, he hits her mom, and she has bruises, and then she finally has enough, and she actually arrests him, and she's gonna arrest him and throw him in jail. But then he kind of breaks down, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I get angry, and I lose my temper." And then she, it's her dad, and she takes him back, and the mom is, loves him. I mean, it's a messed up relationship, but it that's kind of like its own movie, you know. It just doesn't feel like it's connected. I don't know. Maybe the writers Catherine Bigelow and Eric Red are trying to connect Jamie Lee Curtis, because she has a romance with Ron Silver, who's the psycho serial killer. But, he's actually nice to her until he snaps. Because he is stalking her, and she doesn't realize this. She didn't know he was at the scene of the crime. She doesn't know that he grabbed the guy's gun, and now he's going through the city killing people with it. So she doesn't know that, and he's kind of just romancing her. He takes her out on some fancy dates. He's pretty well off and rich. He's like a Wall Street stockholder, trader. He's really he's rich. And I mean, in one part of the movie, he takes her up in a helicopter. The movie's beautifully shot. It's absolutely a beautifully shot movie. And he takes her up on the helicopter, and then he says to her, which is a good line for how he thinks about most people that live in the city. He says something like, when you look at people from down here, they're like ants, they're like nothing. And she kind of doesn't think much of it, because you are up in the air. But it's kind of, I think, summarizes his character. He just thinks that he can just go around killing random people, and there won't be many consequences. That's kind of the way it comes off to me. And later in the movie, after a date, he basically is like pseudo confesses to her, although he doesn't say it's him. This is when she kind of realizes, okay, this is the killer. And he's almost like inviting her to join him. A little bit like maybe like you would see with Hannibal Lecter or something, but she instantly arrests him, takes him in. He has a big fancy attorney, and then she even admits, well, he didn't exactly confess to me, and so he gets off with it. He's smart. He hides his gun. He buries it in Central Park. And then throughout the movie, he's just basically slowly losing his mind. In a pretty funny scene, he's like, she's now stalking him. She's kind of turned the tables on him. And he's kind of running around, almost looks like a homeless person. He's like digging in the ground. He has dirt all over himself, trying to find where the gun is. And then she ambushes him, and he is smart though. She's always like about to catch him. And then in the end, obviously she does. So, but but yeah, it's a good movie. I don't think it's amazing. Um, like I said, I don't know, the villain maybe a little weak, but it is an interesting movie for the feel of it, and the Cameron angle. I think makes it interesting. Yeah, the opening title scene I thought was really interesting because I was like, man, like, and if you watch it, you know what I'm talking about. It like reminds me of the opening title scene to like Terminator, with the music and they're showing her gun. Just the way it's filmed, it's yeah, definitely reminds me of Terminator. The music is very Terminator. So, but it's yeah, I mean I liked it. Ron Silver does an okay job. I think maybe that's kind of the weakness of the movie is you maybe want to see more of him out there. I mean, he kills a couple people. You maybe want to see a little bit more of that. But the movie also kind of shows Jamie Lee Curtis, and she's kind of intimidates men, I think is the theme. Like there's this, she has this friend, and it's her girlfriend, and they're at a barbecue of her house because she has a husband and kids, and she's like trying to introduce her to different friends of hers. She introduces her to this guy who's an accountant, I think, and then he's like, well, what do you do? And then she says, I'm a cop, and he doesn't really believe it, and then he believes it, and he's obviously intimidated, and he's like, hey, I gotta go. So then he kind of scampers off. Like so that that's kind of interesting, kind of how some women, probably especially back then, would have been treated if they were a cop by some men, so that part's kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, I did enjoy the movie. I don't know what I would give it. Like a 7 out of 10, probably. I think it was amazing, but maybe 7.5. I just think it's really well put together. So I would say that, and the villain is kind of influenced by David Berkowitz. Like the son of Sam, the killer in the film is referred to as the 44 Magnum Killer by the media, commits his crimes in New York City, appears to hear voices, as the son of Sam once said he did, and taunts the police. Yeah, like there's this scene where he's working out, and he starts to grab his ears, and he starts to scream, about how he's like hearing this voice that is telling him to kill. So you can definitely see that. It was distributed as a film from Oliver Stone, even though Stone was only one of the movie producers. Yeah, that's interesting too. It's produced by Oliver Stone. According to co-writer Eric Red, this movie is just a female version of The Hitcher. Yeah. I mean, I guess. Definitely in some ways. I mean, he's the screenwriter, he would know, but it's just like the way it's put together and the editing and everything's totally different than that movie, which I like The Hitcher. But Clancy Brown shadowed NYPD homicide detectives for 2 weeks. Jamie Lee Curtis also took part in several weeks of the academy, including firearms training. Jamie Lee Curtis revealed that the original script asked her to do with a gunfight scene au naturel. It was written as a nude scene, but I said no way I was going to run around with a gun in my hand and nude. Everyone would be watching my breast flopping around instead of watching the scene. Wow. I mean, if I remember correct, I think the end fight is like in the streets. So, yeah, you can understand that. Eric Red suggested Jamie Lee Curtis for the role. I mean, it's a good role for her. It's, you know, it's a decent script. I don't think it's amazing, but it's a good script, and it's different than, you know, the horror movie she's been doing. Although this movie has an aspect of horror, but I wouldn't say this is a horror movie. This is like a thriller, I would say. Jamie Lee Curtis plays a rookie police officer in real life. Jamie Lee Curtis was originally going to be a police officer before becoming an actress. Okay, well, that's what the trivia says. So, oh, Wilhelm von Homburg was considered to play the role of Eugene Hunt, but could not be reached after Ghostbusters 2, in which he played Vigo. Huh. Oh, okay, that's the Ron Silver role. So he was gonna maybe be the villain. I don't know. To be honest, I've never really seen that guy in much. Oh, he's in Die Hard. Wow. He's in the Mouth of Madness. I'm not sure. I'm not really, because as Vigo, you know, he doesn't really do that much. I mean, he's a painting. So, I don't know. Maybe that would have made it a little better. I don't know. Maybe that's my problem with the movie is, you know, I mean, Ron Silver plays a good douchebag, like, you know, like a good rich douchebag, but you know, I don't know. I think that's kind of maybe a weaker part of the movie, but yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple movie with a pretty simple premise. I did enjoy it. If you could do me a favor and smash that like button, that'd be great. It really helps the channel. And I think that's about it, though. Check it out. Comment below if you're a fan of the movie. If not, if you feel the same way about the Cameron, like you know, like the way it's edited and the music and everything. So the influence. But yeah, I'll see you next time.